I want to start off with just a really basic question, because you've had tremendous success. That comes, it seems, with the Emanuel name in some ways when you look at your family in totality. But I want to try to understand something very basic. Why do you do this job every day? Why?
It sounds like you're with
It's
me
really
at 5 a.m.
Well, I've seen you at 5 a.m.
No, well, here's, yeah, I
on
know.
the lake.
When you're running, I'm biking over. So, look.
Biking's easier.
Not when you're on your way to swim in the water. So here's, it's not one answer, okay? Can you hear? Is this on? Okay. It's not one answer, and there's a couple things. So I had I've never I'm going to quote somebody else, but this is the reason. So for Leia's bat mitzvah, I took her to Israel, just me and her. That was going to be her bat mitzvah gift. Leia's my baby, who's on her way now, free at last. No, she's this summer. And, you know, this is not normal, but I know Shimon Peres when he was alive, so I take her in to meet the president of the state of Israel, who was there at the creation, same age as her grandfather. And in that deep Lithuanian accent, he goes, Leah, there are two books in life. There is the history. Now, she's used to hearing this because her grandfather speaks the same accent. There's the history book and the guest book. And now, as you are bat mitzvahed and an adult in the Jewish faith, you must choose which book your name goes in. I don't want to be a guest. I want to make a difference. This has been, and I think that's one. And I want to make a difference in the lives of other people. And second is, you know, when we grew up, if you could call the way the Emanuel boys were raised as growing up, but as we grew up, you know, you mentioned my mother ran CORE here in Chicago, Congress on Racial Equality. My grandfather and grandmother lived with us. My grandmother on my father's side lived with us. And family dinners were big discussions, more yelling than discussions, about current events. And it came into my sense of doing something in politics, in public service, and giving something back, because as an immigrant child and an immigrant grandchild, you know, this is the greatest country in the world, and we owe something back. And I think I've been really fortunate to not only work for two great presidents that I admire, be elected, you know, in Congress from a city that usually defines politics by ethnicity. You know, look, before I got elected to Congress, the members of the North Side were Dan Rosikowski, Roman Puczynski, Frank Annunzio, Rob Blagojevich, Rahm Emanuel. Now you tell me which one doesn't work there. And I got a chance to get elected by people who looked past differences to make a difference. And I love being able to make that difference. And I'll just tell you one story. So the Chicago Mercantile Exchange co-invests with our Chicago Star Scholarship. So we were making the other announcement. They give $5,000 to kids who go from the Star to the Star Plus. So I'm coming back to, before we're about to give the remarks, and this young man passes me, an employee at CME. And he says, I want to say thank you. And I got to be honest, guys, in this job, you don't get a lot of that. And I go, what for? And he says, I'm a Chicago Star Plus graduate. I went to community college at IT at Wright Community College. I then went to DePaul. I graduated debt-free, and I'm now working at CME, making $125,000 a year. And I got, no, and you know, yes, it's a program. You made something that maybe his parents did not know how they were going to figure it out. And to me, if you're going to spend time doing something, that's worth doing, because your job's not easy. Your jobs aren't easy. We all break. I may break more brain cells than you do on an average day, but we all break brain cells. To me, if you're going to break brain cells, that's worth breaking brain cells for. That's what I love doing.
So there's so much in there, and I want to go to a couple of issues. So you referenced child of immigrants. Mm-hmm. Immigrants, you know, that's been a part of your story. I mean, you have to go there on the immigrant story then. So talk about this moment in time around immigration and how that looks to someone like you. Because this is obviously a part of the national conversation in a major way.
I don't think it, I think, well, here's the thing. I think, I'll give you this. Do you know how many languages are spoken in the Chicago public schools? 140. I've been to schools where you have literally, like on the northwest side, 22 languages, and they all said, when we were doing an addition, they all went up in their native language and said, we want to thank the mayor. And this was happened to be, we're doing an addition. And I really wish the rest of America saw this. People from over the Pacific, people from the other side of the Rio, people from the other side of Atlantic and the north and south end, all together with one mission, education. Different languages, different cultures, all proud of it. But they were all children of parents who knew an education was important. And to me, we cannot turn our back on not only the history of the city, the history of the country, but also the future. What kept America young is people kept coming here. I think this is not a conversation nationally. I think this has become a xenophobic policy by this president. And there are differences, but there are more commonality. And I am the son, my grandfather was an undocumented immigrant. Came here 13 years old, by himself, not a word of English, to meet a third cousin he never met. And he went to that famous place called the West Side in North Lawndale. And he meets my grandmother at a dance for Eastern European Jews at Douglas Park in North Lawndale. His grandson is the mayor of the city he came to in 1917. Don't kid yourself, this is not the greatest city in the greatest country. And Donald Trump is turning his back on what built this country.
So why do you think, and I'm just gonna go here just a little bit more, and then we can pivot to other issues. You are famous for the line that I've quoted many, many times, as others have, don't let a crisis go to waste. And
It's two parts, wait a second. I said, never allow a good crisis to go to waste. It's the opportunity to do the big things you never thought possible and make them possible.
okay, so thank you for the full sentence. That helps a lot.
Because it's not just a good crisis.
Okay, good crisis. I don't know if our conversation around race and immigration counts as a good crisis or a bad crisis, but it does feel crisis-like. Mm-hmm. What is there to be done in that conversation today, where there is so much disenfranchisement and there is so much negative rhetoric and hurt, and clearly, where I will be very transparent here, the idea of taking families apart for some is just unconscionable, me being one of them. Where is the opportunity there? What should be done in your mind, son of immigrants?
Well, let me say one, so let me, if I could, break these up twice. I mean, in two separate parts, rather. One, we've never actually had a full conversation about race. We've had moments about it. So let's also be clear. That's unique to America. Not that there's not other racial, Europe's now going through it. But the truth is, every time we kind of get started, we fall back. Doesn't mean we didn't make progress, but we actually have never consistently had a conversation of race. Immigration, and you know, I go around the city and I teach classes, civic classes to 8th graders. And I remind them that this moment in time has very similar times to the early part of the 20th century.
Right.
Rural to urban, agriculture to manufacturing. You know, you have a transition of economy, transition of geography. You have massive immigration, mainly from Eastern Europe here, not Western Europe or Northern Europe. And so this moment in time is not different than that. And we have worked our way through it. And each time. And I actually believe, I'm more optimistic that both of these discussions, we will make more progress here, because I actually think the country is recoiling from what the president's doing. And I want to remind everybody, you know the firefighter Busio that died 2 months ago? His priest at the service made a point that his mother brought all 9 siblings across the Rio. She's halfway across, She counts, one's missing. She sends firefighter Bruce Yule back to get the other child. Says, we're not going unless everybody goes together. The one sibling is sleeping under a tree. Picks him up, gets him on the back, gets up with the rest of the family on the Rio and goes. 3 of the 9, 2 are firefighters, 1 is a police officer in the city of Chicago. That family, under today's present zero tolerance policy, would be separated from the mother from the siblings. And 3 of them are public servants in the city of Chicago. And I fundamentally believe the American public knows what's going on is wrong and that the president's using this. And I actually believe that the country will push past this president's policies that are abhorrent to the common values of this country. It will take us a lot to work through, but make no mistake about it, we will work through it because we actually always, in the end of the day, get it right, even when we periodically get it wrong. I really am optimistic about it.
So where we're, some would say, struggling to get it right in our city is around the issue of crime. And we all travel a lot in this room. We are fortunate to be able to do that for work and for pleasure. And I'm always struck in being in other countries where you turn on CNN or Sky News or the BBC and it says, this many people were murdered in Chicago this weekend, in far-flung places in the world. And that narrative is one that hurts our city without a doubt. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the progress we're making there? And what has been the issue from your perspective?
It's not an issue. It's issues. So
it's not just guns?
No, I mean, as somebody that, for President Clinton, was given the assignment to pass the Brady bill and assault weapon ban, no. I mean, guns are a big role. We take more guns off the street every year than New York and LA combined. Now, New York has Connecticut and New Jersey gun laws. California is an island to itself. We have Wisconsin and Indiana gun laws. So guns play a big role. That's why I want the governor to sign the gun licensing bill. 40% of the guns we take off the street, our police officers take, come from gun shops here in Illinois. You can't, Chicago's not an island when you're within a half-hour drive of both Indiana and Wisconsin. Number 2, look, I think our police are doing a very good job and making significant progress. I don't want to go through data, but last year they were down after 2016, and this year they're down off of last year down. 16% on homicides, 22% on shootings. This year, right now, it's around 25 and 23% respectively. But nobody walks around and goes, you know what, I feel 42% better than I did in 2016.
Right,
okay?
because the absolute numbers are still...
No, they're right. So the second thing, I think is essential, is we went from 14,000 summer jobs this year, 32,000 summer jobs, the most in the country. Every week I have lunch with these kids. And I don't want to take a lot of time on this, but we're doing a very big innovation piece where we'll work with somebody 2 summers in a row in healthcare and then ask a hospital to hire them. So we will train in the public sector for 2 years and then ask the healthcare profession so they can work in the private sector. We're going to do that in transportation. We're going to do it in all fields, so it's more of a career base than just a job. We've expanded after school by 115,000. Every budget, I've put $1 million or $2 million more in that. We're the first city also, which is showing real promise in a thing called BAM, Becoming a Man, and WOW. 7,500 young men are in a mentoring program, 8th, 9th, and 10th. And I'll tell you today what Amazon told me, give me one social issue or one issue that you would like us to be totally vested in. And I would like to take I told them like this, take the mentoring program from 8th grade down to 3rd grade. We have now this is me as a father of 3 children, obviously one of them is a son. And I've watched my kids, I'm immensely proud of the choices they're making, not just the schools they're going. I have become, as a mayor, evangelical about family. And it can't be a topic we get scared of. I don't care 2 fathers, I don't care 2 mothers, I don't care if 2 fathers on Monday and Tuesday, 2 mothers Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I don't care. But we have to be honest, family matters. And our kids are yearning for them. And my biggest hero is a single mother that does it well. It's an incredible thing, but we have to be honest about our kids need structure, they need role models, they need positive reinforcement, whether that's after school, summer jobs, coaches, teachers, but they also need mentors in
But
their life.
family is the hardest part in this equation.
No, I got it.
because-
Let me go through the whole thing. There's guns, as you said. It is the hardest part. One is because we don't want to have a conversation about it.
But also government has limited roles in pushing the family theme. You can do a lot of the other themes in a much more policy nature.
No, well, that's what BAM is about and WOW is about. I can't do it. But that doesn't mean I walk away. So I want to say this to the private sector. We started, UFC gave us this program. We've built it from what was 180 kids to 7,500. I'm going to give you two anecdotes. One is when President Obama set up My Brother's Keeper. So when he's coming to Hyde Park High School, I said, look, I've participated. I want you to participate in a BAM circle. He says to me, you need that, I don't. I said, okay, since I was your chief of staff and I separated from my family for 2 years, you owe me one. I want you to do it.
Just one?
Yes, well, just one for today, and then I have one tomorrow, okay? I said it was on a daily. I wasn't saying an annual. So he says, okay, I'll do it. It's at Hyde Park High School. Goes upstairs before the speech. I'll do 20 minutes. Hour and a half later. And I know about President Obama. He doesn't like being late. He's an hour late for that speech. And when he launches 5 months later, My Brother's Keeper, Christian, who sat next to him in Hyde Park High School in that circle, is the one that introduced him in the East Wing of the White House. My Brother's Keeper was launched off of the mentoring program we have here in Chicago. And when they sent the president a Father's Day card, a number of the kids said, this is the first Father's Day card I've ever signed. And they're 16 or 17. Now, I can't order family, but I can, as a city, start something at the University of Chicago or build something that matters. It's a hard discussion. Nobody wants a Jewish upper middle class kid to lead it, but we can't shy away from it. We can't stay away from it, but it does matter. So policing matters. Investments in kids and after school summer jobs and mentoring matters. Gun control matters. Economic opportunities I try to address here matters. And knowing also where I do believe there's a percentage of kids and people who don't want to be in the illegitimate economy and legitimate. But I will also tell you, we have to come, this is another thing, and I'm just telling you this, that's changed me as mayor. While I fundamentally believe in the goodness of human nature and people wanting to do good, in this job, I've come across that I've also believed that there is evil in this world. And anybody that can take a young boy who's 11, walk him off a basketball court into an alley, and as a retribution, and never once the voice in their head goes off and says, what I'm doing is wrong, means there's evil. And we have to accept that sometimes and then deal with it in a way that says it's unacceptable. And that too is not PC, but I'm telling you, but you can't say it's police, you can't say it's gun control, you can't say it's family, you can't say it's after school, you can't say, it's all of it.
So the one thing you didn't say, which is interesting to me, you've talked a lot about education and you've talked a lot about family, clearly.
Right.
You didn't talk about Black and Hispanic business.
Well, I talked about economics.
But when you think about the role of the business owner in a community as anchoring a community, you know, when you think about the 1950s and 60s in a much more segregated America, you had that community with that doctor or who had a small family practice, or that accountant who was the accountant to a number of people, et cetera, who became pillars in those communities. That seems to be something that has been lost as those people.
Yes, I mean, so here's, again, let me go against conventional. I know there's a discussion of it's a tale of two cities. I don't believe that. It's a tale of two investments. One was invested and one was not. Now, you're grabbing me on the day in which I was on the west side just yesterday at a pharmacy that's a recipient of our Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. And we're about to do another tranche. As development happens downtown, it funds, we have about $50 to $60 million in that fund that goes to neighborhood businesses, $100,000 to build that up. And I said economic opportunity without detailing it. I fundamentally believe opportunity and job creation in a neighborhood's key. Also, modernizing the red line, making an education at Wright or community colleges or the four-year institutions relevant, making sure that homes are affordable are relevant, and that you're investing in that area. So Mellody, I would say to you, it's, one of the key parts of this is not just jobs in a neighborhood. It's very important for stability of a neighborhood. We live in a time where you earn what you learn. One of the most important things I saw when I was President Obama's chief of staff, in the height of the recession, we're losing 800,000 jobs a month. It's 11%. The unemployment rate for people with a four-year degree never exceeded 4.7%. In the worst recession since the 30s. So what you earn, or what you learn, is key, which is why the push not only for better high school graduation, but also making sure that high school is not the end of the road, but actually a milestone. And so jobs locally, and the ticket, passport, and visa to jobs anywhere they go. That's what you have, that's what I have, that's what all of us in this room have. We have a visa that gets you anywhere you want to go in the 21st century. It's called our education. And the reason I have bled what I've bled for our public schools, even when people disagree with that effort, because I know how important that is to success in the future.
Is that your highest priority?
It's the only reason I ran.
Okay, so it's education.
I gotta be honest. I know that a lot of the debate was about pensions and fiscal stuff. That's politics.
But it's livelihood too for people.
No. I mean, my side fixing it.
Right.
What I meant by is how much pain, how much, what are you willing politically capital here? The reason I did education goes back to the first question, why do you do this? Because I know what education's meant to me. I know what education's meant to my kids.
Right.
I know what education growing up in my home, the way my parents raised me. And I believe the public school system can actually give tickets to our kids regardless of zip code, race, or economic background. And I want everybody who takes who has proud of the city and takes a stake in it. We're by no means where we need to be. No means. But you should not lose sight of the fact that the city of Chicago, for 5 consecutive years, graduation rate from its high school is 3.5 times the national rate. Not once, not twice. That Shorten Reardon, the leading education demographer, says that children in the city of Chicago get 6 years of education, only 5 years. We as a city have embarked from the time William Bennett called this the worst school system on a 30-year process to fix something, and you're finally getting results that match the effort.
So
and
what
to
would
me,
be,
that's worth
and what would be
fighting
where
for.
you'd say you would be giving your own self a high five? What would be the metric that you would look at and you'd say, this is something truly to be proud of in terms of a legacy? Is there a goal? Is there a what are you
I think
focused on in terms of an outcome? Progress,
no,
or is it more
what?
specific than that?
I mean, I can give you all the data.
No,
That's
but not
here's-
what
I will
happened, but what do you want to happen? Are you waking up in the morning and saying,
I'll tell you this.
yeah,
So I was at UCAN on the west side with Alderman Michael Scott yesterday. So once a week during the summer jobs, I have lunch with our kids. And if anybody wants to do it, we'll set it up. They would love to hear from you. Amy does it as well. In fact, next week it's a date night. Amy and I are going to have lunch with ASM kids who are part of the summer jobs.
thank you for doing that.
Not a problem. It's the only way I can see Amy. So we have to schedule lunch. So, and these are all, except for one of the 28 kids, all kids of color from all parts of the city on the southwest side. They're beating down every demographic, cynical stereotype of them. They're all going to college. You'd be proud to have these kids as your own.
What do you learn from them when you sit with them?
They didn't give up on themselves. They get beaten down, not those kids, not that neighborhood, not that family, not that income. They're going to become computer science engineers. They're going to become doctors. One of them wants to be a chief of staff. I told him, don't do it. He says, how do I do it? I said, please don't.
Why not?
No,
Why
no,
not?
no,
Why
I'm
not?
joking. I'm joking. I gave him a book to read, mainly because I'm on the cover of it. No. But to me, the biggest thing is you have young men and women from all our schools. They're having lunch with the mayor. Not one of them was scared asking a question. I told him, Michael was there. I said, I got 28 reasons I'm optimistic about Chicago. And every one of those kids are beating the odds. Every one of those kids didn't give up on themselves. They're not accepting internally all the crap that's said about them. And to me, that's the measure of success. And that means we are doing the right thing because we're supporting them in what they believe about themselves and investing in them. And that to me is worth why you put, not only with this brain damage, that's why public service matters.
So I get what pushes you and motivates you. When you're weary, what is it that gets you down?
So here is the most miserable part of this job. So I've made a habit, and I don't like it. I call the parents or parent or grandmother of a child that's been affected by gun violence, sometimes grazed and sometimes dead. And I say, if you want to come to the office or you don't mind, I said, I don't tell any of the media, I just go. And I go and I tell them, I'm here as a father, I'm not here as a mayor. Everything we do in life is to protect our kids.
Right.
And I would be so devastated if anything happened to Zach, Alana, or Leah, knowing that I couldn't do as a parent what I'm supposed to do. And it is the most miserable thing in this job. Because all you have is a shoulder. And I'm in awe that they can, take the Pendletons. I told them this, Cleo. They set up an organization that helped turn other kids' lives around. Now, it's not about their daughter, it was about the shooter.
Right.
I gotta be honest, I don't know if I would be that generous a spirit. I don't think I would be. And it is the hardest part of this job is to walk into a family room. They think you're the mayor. I'm here, I'm just here as a father.
What do you say?
I don't want you to be alone. I want you to know I love you. I want you to know the city loves you. And as many as tomorrows as it takes, we're here. And I think it sucks. I'll take any fight you want to give me on politics. Any one of you take this. I don't want to do it anymore. Sometimes it's just the hardest piece of crap of this job. And I don't invite anybody. I don't go with the media. And I just think it's... And then you meet somebody who, figures out how to get up the next day and give back. And that gives me energy to want to do it. If they can do it, we can do it. And it's the worst part. It's the thing that gets me down the most. And then you meet somebody that's not asking for attention and they're doing something really extraordinary, and that gives you inspiration to put your right foot in front of your left foot. But I'm telling you, when my staff gives me the card with the name and the number, and Jasmine knows this, so about an hour later she'll come in because she knows. She goes, have you made the call? And I said, I haven't. She goes, you're gonna have to. I said, okay. And then she just stands there and dials it because she knows I don't want to do it. I can't, it rips the soul out of you. It just rips the soul. And I can sit there and tell you what we're doing right. And then we have a lot of work to do as a city.
So and thank you for being so authentic there. It's unimaginable that you would do that regularly. So I, for one, am grateful and appreciate it.
I think it's important. None of us can imagine losing a child. It's one thing if you lose them to health or something. To losing something so senseless, and to let them know that for that moment they're not alone, I think is an important thing to do. And some of the mothers, like one who had recently had a trial, I called her to just check in because I said, I know reliving this must be painful, but I want you to know I'm thinking of you.
So when you think of whenever the day is that comes when you don't do this anymore, how long do you think that'll be from now? Do you have any idea? Is that
So,
like 5 years?
no,
something like
you know what,
that,
here's,
or
so.
longer?
Look, no, here's the thing. This is not, I don't rate what I do based on how long. I rate what I do or want to do by whether I got the job I think done, and whether I still have the oomph to do it. And, if it was up to me, I wouldn't have taken President Obama's call to be chief of staff because I wanted to be congressman. And, my grandfather used to, if the president asks you to do something, you have two answers, yes or yes, sir, and you just got to figure out which one you're going to say. And so I would just say to you, my thing is the way I measure and what I want to do as mayor is to make sure I know the world I inherited, I know what I sent as my mission, and I know that whenever the day is that I walk out, I've got to look at it and say, I've made the city better, I've built a foundation, I'm not here to do this and only this and whatever, but my job is to make sure we're all writing a story. There's many more chapters to Chicago's future. I'm writing my chapters, and my goal as mayor is that whoever, and there will be somebody else that comes as mayor, they'll have been said, thank God that mayor did that so I don't have to do it. And that's it. So whatever time that is, et cetera, I don't judge it on time, I judge it on having created a better foundation for a better future for all of us who call Chicago home. And that's how I'll judge it.